The drama surrounding Angel Reese just reached a new boiling point, and this time, it wasn't sparked by a rivalry on the court. It came from a headline that hit like a gut punch. Sorry, Angel Reese. The $5 million offer was only for Caitlin Clark. Just like that, the fantasy shattered. The deal of a lifetime wasn't hers. It wasn't even on the table. And Ice Cube, the man behind the Big Three League, wasn't playing around. He had made his offer. He had chosen his player. And it wasn't Angel Reese. For months, Reese's brand had thrived on confidence, swagger, and the assumption that she was the moment. But when the Big Three, a league that's fighting tooth and nail for relevance, passed on her without hesitation, it became clear that behind all the talk, behind the flexes and the Instagram dominance, the market had spoken. And it didn't whisper. It screamed. This wasn't just a business decision. It was a reckoning. Ice Cube, known as much for his business instincts as for his place in cultural history, knew exactly what he was doing. He didn't single out Angel Reese. He simply saw where the real returns were. And the fact that it wasn't personal made it even more painful. It meant it was all numbers, all metrics, all value-based. Reese wasn't denied because of controversy. She was passed over because, as he put it, we don't have the luxury of being subsidized by the NBA. In other words, every dollar had to count. And the money simply didn't point to her. While Angel's camp might have hoped the Big Three would pivot after Caitlin Clark turned them down, they didn't. Cube said it plainly, they moved on. The league had to think long-term. Sponsorships, ROI, merchandise. Caitlin Clark represented all of that in one clean, consistent, controversy-free package. Angel, not so much. It wasn't always like this. After her breakout national championship moment, Angel Reese had the world at her feet. She embraced the spotlight, became the villain in some circles and the hero in others. She was trending everywhere. But somewhere along the way, the viral moments stopped translating to value. Brands started ghosting. Sponsors got quiet. The same loud confidence that once set her apart began to look, to executives, more like a liability than an asset. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark just kept showing up. Not just on the court, where her numbers speak volumes, but in every major commercial break, every viral highlight reel, every clean-cut campaign that brands dream about. While Angel was throwing shade on social media, Clark was quietly stacking stats and stacking deals. The contrast became glaring. Ice Cube didn't make it so. He just exposed it. And then came the backlash. The AR5 loyalists pounced, accusing Cube of bias, disrespect, even betrayal. Accusations flew. Was it personal? Was it misogynoir? Was it just another case of the loud being silenced? But for Cube, this was never about identity. It was about business. And his business model didn't support paying $5 million to a player who hadn't proven she could bring that investment back. And while Reese fans might have screamed foul, the truth was even harsher. The silence from sponsors told the real story. Nobody came forward to fill that gap. No brand came to her rescue. No alternate offer emerged. The PR storm didn't stop with Ice Cube, though. In a culture where perception often trumps performance, people began targeting him personally. The same man who once revolutionized hip-hop and carved out a space for himself in the sports world was now being labeled a sellout for not endorsing a player whose hype was no longer translating into business value. And Angel, the rejection stung. In interviews, she began to show cracks. For the first time, the shield of confidence slipped. She talked about the attacks, the threats, the constant pressure since her championship win. She looked tired, not just physically, but emotionally. And yet, instead of recalibrating, she doubled down. Her supporters stayed loud. Her critics got louder. But the game, as always, remained neutral. This isn't about who talks more. It's about who delivers. Caitlin Clark didn't need to manufacture drama. The cameras followed her anyway. She didn't chase controversy. It just never found her. And that's the point. Brands want consistency. Leagues want stability. Angel's volatility, once seen as passion, now looked like risk. The Ice Cube decision exposed all of it. It also put into question the idea that social media fame translates into market value. Angel Reese had the followers. She had the engagement. But at some point, followers stopped equaling fans, and comments stopped equaling commitment. Meanwhile, Clark was building an empire, quietly, efficiently, and without ever needing to clap back. And let's not forget, this wasn't just a $5 million offer. The deal Ice Cube made to Caitlin Clark was unprecedented. Ownership stake, merchandising revenue, a share of a Big 3 documentary, a total valuation of potentially $15 million. This wasn't a typical contract. This was generational wealth. And yet, when Clark declined, Ice Cube didn't flinch. He moved on. He didn't pivot to Reese. That says everything. Because even for a league like Big 3, one that thrives on drama and attention, there's a line. And Angel Reese crossed it. Not with one action, but with a pattern of behavior that made investors uncomfortable and executives cautious. Her highlight reel was no longer enough. The attitude, once a calling card, became a caution sign. It didn't help that every time she got benched, it turned into a narrative. Every coaching decision was seen as a slight. Every critique was framed as an attack. The media started walking on eggshells, but the fans didn't. They noticed the drop in performance. They noticed the inconsistency. And most of all, they noticed that when it came time to lead, to truly elevate her game, Angel disappeared. Caitlin didn't. Even after being snubbed from the Olympics, she didn't complain. She kept working. She showed up. Sponsors loved it. Teams loved it. The league loved it. Meanwhile, Angel's camp was still trying to spin the Big 3 rejection as a cultural slight rather than what it truly was, a business decision. That's the difference between influence and impact. Angel's camp wanted the headlines. Caitlin got the contracts. And still, people kept trying to make this about race, about legacy, about who gets protected and who gets punished. But the scoreboard doesn't lie. The endorsements don't lie. The fact that Caitlin's jersey is flying off the shelves while Angel's is collecting dust, that's not a conspiracy. That's commerce. Reese's supporters insist she's being unfairly targeted, but what they miss is that criticism doesn't mean cancellation. It means expectations. And when you're held to a standard, it's not oppression, it's opportunity. You rise to it, or you get left behind. And Angel Reese, for all her early promise, is getting left behind. Ice Cube didn't sabotage her career. He just didn't inflate it. And in today's sports economy, that's as honest as it gets. He didn't feed the delusion. He didn't cash a check his league couldn't justify. He made a call, one based on numbers, not narratives. Now, as Angel Reese attempts to rebrand, the damage is already done. The sponsors saw the circus. The league owners saw the drama. And the fans, even the loyal ones, started asking questions. Because clout only carries you so far. At some point, you have to show up, not just for the cameras, but for your teammates, for your coaches, for the game. So where does this leave Angel Reese? Somewhere between a rebrand and a reality check.